What's a form of mental abuse that no one really talks about? A partner or friend who gives detailed heartfelt apologies but continues to do the same old harmful stuff. Like they have figured out how to humble themselves as a weapon and have gotten really good at thorough apologies but seem to make zero effort to change their behavior. There's a quote from Community that always stuck in my mind, despite it being a comedy show and not that serious, where Jeff says, "Don't feel bad about it now, feel bad about it before you do it, and then don't do it." I feel it sums this up perfectly. This makes me think of yet another quote that applies here from BoJack Horseman. And admittedly I think I needed to hear it for myself back then, as it helped me become a better person. You can't keep doing SY things and then feeling bad about yourself as if that makes it okay. You need to be better. Yep, a quote that always sticks with me is, "Stop accepting apologies not accompanied by changed behavior." Or they're struggling to connect the intent with the action. Happens a lot. People poor impulse control. By the time they are trying to control it, the action has occurred. I don't know how is it called, but I never had nice explanation when I didn't understand something. I would get yelled at, called names, or sometimes got just silent treatment. I still get nauseous at work when I have to ask for help when I don't understand something or I'm not sure how to do it. My parents were like this. I never asked for help at university because I didn't want people to think I was stupid. Took me 6 years to get a 4-year degree. My parents were like this, and once I realized that most others respond just fine to you saying I don't know, it really took a lot of weight off of my shoulders. My parents didn't like anything to be questioned, but also didn't like when you didn't have all the answers, so I was always in that weird spot of not being able to win. I promise most other people are totally fine if you don't know something or if you ask for an explanation. Many people enjoy getting to share their knowledge. My favorite is ask if you don't know something, and when I ask they say I'm not self-directed and can't do stuff without assistance. Happened in my previous job. The worst is when it is something you literally cannot know unless they tell you. Like the fact that this particular tool or chemical you need isn't stored with the other tools and supplies. It has its own special location on the other side of the building, and how dare you not know that? It's not something you can deduce by logic. You might not even have access to that closet without finding another manager. But you should have known already. You should have known the right person to ask so you didn't have to bother your own manager. Can't you work with your peers? Can't you think for yourself? I have so much anxiety from things like this. Loudly drawing attention to someone stepping outside their comfort zone. Look who's leaving her room. Why? Are you wearing a dress? Who are you? Are you reading a book? A real book? How to make sure your kid thinks they're never allowed to explore or change anything about themselves. 101. This isn't exactly the same, but my mom would, and still does, make fun of me whenever I have emotional reactions to things, so I just don't anymore. For example, are you crying now? Did I make you sad? Poor you. Yeah, I have also learned that love is a form of violence and emotional expression is an invitation for humiliation and abuse. I'm almost 40, but I still have no idea who I am because I fear that if I like or want something it will be weaponized and used against me. I live alone and have few friends, so it's silly, but that's what trauma looks like. Edit. This blew up. Thanks for the awards. If you have mommy issues, I can recommend a visit to subreddit Momforaminate. I honest to GD have a hard time even leaving my FG room, and my family is in the house because of this ST. When they're not home I clean and cook and do housework. And I'm so productive. If I even open my FG door and they're around, they do that ST, and it FG drains any semblance of energy I had. It makes me want to crawl back into my room, curl up in a corner and die. I could ask them to stop, but then I know they'd be thinking about it every time. And that somehow seems worse. I ask specific question talked. This is a premiere, a classmate never talking in class again because I fear comments like that and being humiliated. I feel this on a spiritual level. I'm already shy and have social anxiety, so drawing attention to what I'm doing just amplifies that. Like it's so demotivating that I don't want to do anything. My mom is so bad about this. It was always, who are you trying to impress, made me self-doubt everything and be afraid to try new things thinking everyone was going to think I was trying to impress someone. One of the biggest reasons I never dated until a lot later in life. Excessive passive aggressiveness. It's not quite bullying, But it's not quite rude. But it's easily dismissed as nothing. But years and years of it is so mentally and emotionally exhausting. A response to this I really love that I learned from a relative with a mother like this is taking whatever they say/do as completely factual and not doing the emotional labor of extrapolating what they really mean. Basically it forced her to be direct and stop with the backhanded insults and realize she was intentionally being rude. Doesn't work in every situation, but brings my relative more peace of mind dealing with her. For example, her complaining he never does enough for her while he's bringing her food. Finally I get to see you him. Yes, it's nice to see you after I've had such a busy week. Or hope this helps edit. Because apparently using asterisk turns it into unreadable italics. I have legit just started doing this with mom. She says sy things expecting a certain response and I just don't give it to her. I made a rule for myself to stop doing things for her unless she asks me because she orders me around like a maid or something. I'm not gonna spend my energy trying to figure out why you're treating me this way. I'm just going to stop caring. I hate this so FG much. You know what I do now after years of putting up with this CP? I call them out on it directly. Hey, can you stop with that passive-aggressive bullshit? At first they're extremely surprised I would dare call them out like that. Then that passive-aggressiveness turns into full-blown aggressiveness maybe. That's not exactly healthy, but nor is their behavior. I can see them seething below the surface, but most of the time they begrudgingly stop. Neglect. People always talk about abuse, but neglect, as humorous as it may sound, gets neglected. When I was a teenager I would regularly go missing for days. I'd purposely dip out and go to friends' houses with a packed bag and tell their parents my mom said it was okay for me to stay for a week. My friends' parents must have understood no one cared about me at home and would oblige me and let me stay. I'd return home after a few days and see if anyone knew I was gone. After asking if they knew I wasn't home I'd always get a "No. You were out." Oh well, that's nice. Once I left for 10 days, I snuck back in that time thinking they have to know I wasn't home and I would be in trouble. I came in through the back door and could clearly hear my mom and stepdad watching TV and enjoying themselves. I break it to them that I wasn't home for 10 days after questioning them in regards of whether they noticed I was gone. They tell me, "We thought you were in your room." I was 16 at the time. Mine were medically neglectful. I can't have kids now because of a reproductive disorder that should have been treated when I was a teenager. I also spent over $7,000 in the last 5 years just trying to keep my teeth in my mouth because my parents couldn't be bothered to provide toothbrushes or take us to the dentist even once. I hope you have people who care about you now. Luckily my school made us go to the dentist for checkups and that's how they noticed my teeth were all FD up and my mom had no choice but to take me to the appointments. They're free in my country, but with Eva tiring else it was always homeopathy or she just decided what was wrong with me. Once my neck got so stiff I couldn't move my head for 3 days and she didn't take me to a doctor. I dislocated my knee and she didn't take me to the doctor. She decided I must be lactose intolerant so I couldn't have milk products for years, without taking me to get an allergy test or anything. Thank goodness I broke my arm in school and they had to take me. If it had happened at home I honestly think she wouldn't have taken me. All doctor's appointments are almost free in my country. So money or insurance wasn't the issues. She just didn't want to. Say my parents once left me alone at 11 for 2 weeks to go on vacation. Never checked up on me and I skipped school the entire time. Finally found out a year later and when they asked how I just said no one ever asked. They gave me rules like I 5 minutes to talk to them after school because I was annoying. I couldn't see for years because they'd forget that I needed glasses. It led me to develop selective mutism and I spent most of my childhood on my own and disappearing for long periods of time. If I had an issue I learned to either deal with it myself or be silent about it. Many relatives and friends' parents along the way that would adopt me and would basically teach me how to be a functioning person. I grew up too fast yet also lacked basic social skills knowledge. At one point I was tested for autism because of it. I opened up more later on but I still have those habits that creep in once in a while. Preventing someone from sleeping. This was done to me by a former abuser and it nearly drove me to kill one of us at it. This seems to have struck a nerve with a lot of people. In my case I've found the subs r/raised by narcissists and r/raised by borderlines helpful. Not all BPD havers are abusive BTW. Just putting that out there. I don't condone murder obviously, but sometimes going no contact is the way to go. My DMs are open if anyone needs to vent. I sleep weird hours, but am here XX. I came here to say this: growing up with an alcoholic parent was pretty awful. But the worst part was when they'd get blackout drunk and burst into your room in the middle of the night and just start yelling at you. They'd just stand in my doorway and ramble for hours, forcing me to stay awake. They'd leave and then come back and pick up again. I have sleep issues to this day. I had the opposite situation. My parents made all 5 of us go to bed at 7. Because they were done with us. Have been suffering from insomnia since 5 years old, and I'm 56 now. Not allowing children to make choices. I was raised by parents who dictated most decisions. Making good choices is a necessary skill. I think children raised this way do not develop a sense of autonomy. I have a terrible time making decisions. And I don't care about many things like color choices, food, recreation, and more important life choices like partners and occupations. It is harder to find pleasure in life when choices are based on what you dislike the least. I had a friend in college that I drove to the supermarket. She'd take forever to pick things out. Like Pop-Tarts, so many options, and she had no idea how to handle it. She didn't have any food allergies or any diet restrictions. She also panicked the first couple times I left her to it and went to another aisle without her. Yup, I wasn't allowed to choose Halloween costumes from kindergarten until about 3rd grade. If I didn't like then I was being irrational and I had to deal with it because she wasn't going to change it. Not Halloween, not Christmas. Parties sometimes, not even regular clothes. Actually one time I wanted to go as something else and she wanted me to go in an all-white 20s fringe outfit. I hated it. She wanted me to pose and take pictures. I refused. I stood there still and at one point crossed my arms, absolutely furious and crying. She took pictures of me like that because, one day you'll realize what a brat you were being. I think I was, maybe 6, 7. I don't really give decision anymore. I'm beyond indecisive when left to my own devices. It's not something I feel comfortable with doing. My automatic response is that it will be rejected, so no need to bother. It's a knee-jerk reaction. I'm working on bettering myself and making decisions that make me comfortable. Learning to understand that I can do what I want when I want. It's still a work in progress, but I'm on my way. Not allowing someone the time and space to cool down or collect their thoughts when an issue is brought up. Had a spouse follow me through the house until the conclusion he found acceptable was reached. Do you have any way to deal with this? I'm sorry for asking, but I just realized my mom does this to me. It never ended until he passed from a medical condition. I would usually end up saying yes dear or pretending to agree just to get away, and I would try to process what I could. I was on the flip side of this. He would say, I need to talk about this later. So I would in the beginning. Wait a day or 2 or a few hours. Then bring it up turned into, it's in the past, let's not bring it up again. Please, I don't want to fight. Shut down. So yep, eventually, I was the one chasing his calm ass around the house because I lost my patience. Crazy making behavior. It's really bizarre. Lots of these abuse examples have flip sides that the other person can rationalize. Gah. I'm often the one who needs time to collect my thoughts, but I do try to communicate later. My wife brought up the imbalance of this, once asking if I realized that it meant we only talked about things when I was ready and not when she needed it. Totally changed the way I approach things, and this marked a drastic improvement in the way we communicate. I hate this. I need a lot of time to collect my thoughts almost about everything and to prepare myself for everyday life since I'm easily overwhelmed. I struggle with a lot of things because of my anxiety among others, and unexpected situations and arguments really drain me psychologically. I am a really calm person, or at least I try my best to be. So I always try to remove myself from the situation and give me space to cool down and be able to think in a more logical and better way to approach the situation. My parents wouldn't let me. They would follow me too until an acceptable conclusion was found by forcing me to tell them what they wanted to hear or by screaming at me nonstop. Constantly undermining someone or second-guessing someone. My brother does this on a regular basis about big, small or totally irrelevant stuff. At first I didn't think much of it, but after a long time it started to make me not be able to make decisions properly because I was always told my decisions were wrong. It took a lot of time to come to the conclusion that even if my decisions are wrong, they're my decisions and I'm learning from my own mistakes. This, I don't need emotional support and I don't need anyone to cheer for me. I know better than to expect all that. All I need is for the constant discouragement to end. Being brought up by parents who think that if you're fed, watered and clothed that's their responsibilities completed. Or worse, thinking that you owe them for doing the bare minimum of keeping you alive. Owing your parents for raising you is one of dumbest things ever. It's their choice to get a kid, so it's their responsibility to raise you. Minimizing from others who support the abuser. They were only teasing, you need a thicker skin, you should just ignore. Or when they blame you more for your reaction than they do from the actual person who did the behavior. You know, if you didn't react that way. Getting rid of your stuff without asking. Filming you without asking. Going through your phone and belongings without asking. Nothing f's up your trust more than your privacy constantly being invaded. Thousands of pictures. Gone all my social media. Gone almost all my contacts. Gone my jacket I got for Christmas. Gone all without my knowledge or permission. Edit. My ex did all of this. My parents are lovely and would never do such awful things. My mom used to do this all the time, going through my stuff and throwing things out, whether it was stuff or clothes, and always on trash day. So when I got home from school there was no salvaging any of it. Edited. To add, one of the things that makes me sad to this day is when she threw away a pair of jeans. When I was in the 9th grade. I was never hip was wearing old lady clothes because those stores was the only place my mom would take me. Got bullied every single day. And these jeans were cool. They made me feel like was somewhat the same as the other kids. A cool brand, a bit too long and worn at the bottom seam. Just the way they should be. And she tossed them. It's almost 30 years ago and I remember it vividly. I know it may seem small stuff compared to some of your stories. But it was one of those times where I felt really helpless about being controlled in every aspect of my life. I'm so sorry to hear your stories as well. I feel your pain, you're not alone. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification. See you on another video. Bye.